So hello folks, and welcome back here. Today we're actually going to look at a few different things. We're going to look at why the game creators made certain things the way they do, or the way they did rather. The way different ships of different alliances can be made to interact with one another. Why those who created the game only made it so you can have 20 people in an alliance. And we're also going to take a look at what you can do, or at least one of the things you can do, to help destroy ships of accounts that should not be on a brand new map. And I'll also give you a couple pointers as to how you can tell if they're legitimate accounts or not, or legitimate new players or not. I'm not going to do commentary throughout this whole thing, it's rather long. I'll just do some of the important highlights. I'll speed up some of this video here, but you'll end up getting the main gist of it here. So what do we have going on here? Well, all of the Aquin that you see here were made using alternate accounts that we use to go to different maps for the sole purpose of fighting or trying to destroy the individuals, preventing new players from both gaining planets on their map of choice and from advancing to new maps. If you want to get anywhere in the game, you have to garner new maps. So I mean, that's a given. You have no option if you want to do anything other than the most basic elements of the game. You have to get to new maps, and in order to do that, you have to have an infrastructure. At least you do now. You have to have an infrastructure in place to actually get to new maps, because it is very difficult to find a new map that is organically full of new players. So what do we have going on here? Well, first off, the planet that we're taking over right now using our alternate accounts, which are technically not allowed, but we use them, like I've said in several videos, to actually counter the individuals who prevent new players from joining or from playing. It all depends on how and what you use these for. That determines whether they're positive or negative, and that quite frankly goes for anything that you do. So right now, we're attacking a planet from an alliance on here that has a both mix of legitimate and illegitimate players. The illegitimate players are people who have other accounts that are much higher ranked, generally speaking in the top 20 if not the top 10. But the planet that we're taking over now is owned by one of those individuals, because he and his entire alliance is going through this particular map 439, and taking back over the planets that he already pre-took with his duplicate accounts, with his alternate accounts when the map first opened, preventing new players from actually playing. Well, we're pretty limited as to what we can do because they have such a head start over us. In order to get on a level playing field, we had to bring a lot of hardware over to match what they had. So what's going on here? Normally, when you bring over a whole bunch of accounts like this, you make a mixture of MAU, CUL, and Aquin in order to take over planets, or at least take over any planet here. This is a little different. The reason why is because they have so many accounts with so many groups. It wouldn't cut it just to have 1, 2, 3, or even 4 groups of Aquin, or 4 accounts full of Aquin, like, you know, it usually is. It doesn't normally take that much. So we had to change strategies a little bit. Actually, this is the first time we tried this, and it's actually not too bad. What we're doing is, from our main accounts, we're taking MAU to divert the fire from the main guns so they don't destroy the Aquin from our alternate accounts for this planet. So even with 2 competing alliances here, that's essentially what they are, even though they're both owned by us. Even with 2 competing alliances here, your planet will still always go for the MAU over everything. Now, whenever you're setting this up, and quite honestly, I hope you don't have to do something like this. I hope that you're able to just play as normal and enjoy the game if you're able to. But when you're dealing with a group of individuals who have no regard for anybody but themselves, unfortunately, this is what you have to do. And it's justified by saying, well, everybody does it now. Well, you know, that's not the case. This was started 2 years ago by these individuals doing this. And now other groups who don't want this game to die have to come in and do this, what you're seeing on here right now, just to take them out. And it's unfortunate. So what we're doing here, this started off as a 20-gunned blue planet. We're using nothing but Aquin to take it as far as the firepower goes, but we're using the MAU to divert the firepower, or to divert the guns away from shooting the Aquin, so A, we can use the Aquin again, And B, it takes a lot of time to make all this Aquin and a very short time to just go through it. So in order to maximize your dollar spent, we're doing this in the cheapest way possible. Normally we wouldn't use strictly Aquin, but unfortunately that's what we have to do now, because the other individuals who have taken over these already pre-taken planets have so many groups now that darn near anybody who tries to go up against them can't do anything because they're simply overwhelmed. This is the only equalizer to the cheating that they started in this game. We have an inner circle of Aquin Station firing at the planet, and we have an outer rim of Aquin that isn't firing at anything. Now, you may think to yourself, well, won't you get the planet done quicker if it's all shooting? And yes, you're absolutely right. But the reason why we're not doing that is we need some to essentially stand guard. If they come with their massive groups, massive ships, if given enough time, they'll be able to completely wipe out everything here. We obviously don't want that to happen. So we'll sacrifice a little bit of time, generally 10 to 15 minutes, for the safety and security of having some that are not firing that are around the outer edge. Now, the individuals who own this account, they just realized what's going on. So they started making guns on the planet. Now, because this also belongs to an alliance that has members as alternate accounts, and this particular account is an alternate account of the Infinity Alliance, by those guns getting put on, we now know that their alliance is aware of what we're doing. So now we're up against the clock. Now we have to do this as fast as possible, so we're pouring in as many MAU groups as we can, and we're going to start patrolling. Now, because we are so limited in groups on this map, we have to pick and choose very carefully what we use. The best ships you can use for patrol, hands down, is a detector ship. Reason why is because it's going to do two things for you. It's going to A, light up anybody that's watching you do this that you can't see, and B, it has the longest of all the view ranges of any of the ships. If you're able to, and a lot of times your group quantity doesn't allow it, but if you're going to do a patrol like that, use one detector ship with maybe 4 to 5 minimum Aquin groups. That's more than enough to take out 2 or 3 Rabos that are, if you happen to light them up, it's more than enough to take them out. And who's ever watching you is going to run away because they're going to realize really quickly that they're outmatched in firepower significantly. And for proof of what I'm saying here, as far as this being a base from an account that actually belongs to the Infinity Alliance, eventually later on in this video, Driftwood, which is an account, one of the accounts controlled by the leader of this alliance, the leader of the Infinity Alliance. But Driftwood is going to come in here. He has the capacity of at least 35 groups here. Now, he doesn't use 35 groups, which I don't understand why. Maybe he didn't have them made. Maybe he couldn't get them down, or maybe he just didn't want to sacrifice them. Or maybe he didn't realize just how much we had down here. But he eventually comes into view with maybe a dozen groups, which isn't going to do anything against this. And now, quite frankly, it's just a waiting game until this planet is actually completed. So while we're waiting here, let's talk about why Ditto Games will not increase the alliance sizes. They're stuck at 20. I've written to them multiple times about this. And really, if you think about it logically, there is only one reason why they won't increase the alliance sizes. And that's because they have the capability of making more money if there are more enemies within the game. It would be fantastic if we could have much greater alliance sizes. It would afford the ability to do much more, and it would be much easier to get on other maps against people who cheat. But once you start playing this, you'll very, very quickly learn that Ditto Games cares about one thing and one thing only, and that's how much money they can make. They care about nothing else. For instance, you can write a support ticket about your payment not working, your payments not going through. They'll get back to you within an hour or two. If you write about a game functioning problem or an issue that you're having, you'll be lucky if they get back with you within a week. That shows you where their priorities are, so you kind of have to ignore that. And that's also one of the reasons why I'm making videos here, so I can explain to you what they won't explain themselves, and maybe tips and tricks that'll help you that if you were to ask them, you'll never get a response from. But the sole purpose of keeping alliance groups to 20 is so there is more division amongst the players. Now, we have mitigated that by making a large Discord channel, which has over a few hundred, I shouldn't say that, has over a couple hundred players on it. Not everybody is active, but a good majority are. We formed external alliances outside of the existing alliances, and you'll find that helps very significantly without your gameplay. Now, a few times throughout this, you'll see the alliance Red War pop up here. Red War is another alliance on this particular map that is full of duplicate accounts that belong to the Infinity Alliance. I hope you're getting the idea here. They have nearly unlimited funds to run all of this for the sole purpose of, I mean, heck, I don't even know. At some point, this isn't even fun anymore. It becomes one concerted effort to simply stop them, which I suppose you could call fun in and of itself, especially when you're successful, this successful, at least as successful as we are. But at some point, you got to say, enough is enough, and you got to let the new players play. Otherwise, like I've said several times, this game is simply going to die. So anyhow, that's basically what's going on here. If you're a new player on a new map, there really is going to be nothing that you can do to defend yourself against an alliance who is willing to do this to you if you are a legitimately new player. There's nothing you can do. Your best bet is simply going to be to reset your account, go on to a new map. Bottom line, plain and simple. It's not worth the aggravation of trying to find a way to stop. Now, we Prometheus, we've been contacted by many individuals to try to help them mitigate this and stop this, but there's really only so much that we can do too. You know, we're people with lives and we have expenses of our own, and like doing this is, if you do this over and over and over, it's quite an expense. It is not cheap to do this. That's why you try to reuse ships and mitigate the expenses as much as humanly possible. Producing free MAU and stashing them on your home map and moving them to other maps is one of the ways to do this. Reusing your Aquan or any ships that you can is another way to do this. So if you're taking a planet legitimately and you're not trying to take a planet from a cheating player like we are here, this is not the way to go about taking a planet. The only reason why we're doing this here is because we're up against an enormous amount of groups. If you were to originally take a 20-gun planet like this and you are by yourself, the only way to do this is if you're gonna go up against an inactive player, because you're gonna end up using maybe 6 Carls, and because you are limited to a certain number of groups, you're gonna have to make fodder, use it, make fodder and ammo, and use it again. You're not gonna be able to take it all in one shot. Even if you're in an alliance with a half a dozen people, chances are you're not going to be able to take it quickly enough. So in reality, you need to initially take as many planets as possible, build them up, start that as your infrastructure before you move to another map. And once you move to another map, with your alliance, you'll be able to start taking other planets. Or like I said, you can go to our Discord channel, link up with other players who are established, and you know what? They'll help you get planets and other maps. We are more than happy to help other people, especially new players and younger players who want to play this. Eventually, when you get bigger and stronger within the game, you'll become a friendly rival, and that's ultimately what makes this fun. Once you get up into the upper echelons, so to speak, of the higher ranking players in this game, you'll discover that there's a lot of strategy that you can use and you'll have to invoke, because different ships do different things. You have secret alliances, you have people you don't even know about trying to make your life miserable by going onto your map, destroying as much fodder as they can. So there's really not a whole lot to discuss or show here, so I'm just going to leave it at that, and I'll let this play until the end, whenever we do eventually take the planet. It looks like it's almost done here. It's at like 3 or 4 guns, something like that. When you get that many ships together in a mass, it's really difficult to see how many guns are left. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up here. I am still trying to put together a video on how to get to a new map if you are an already established player. I think I may have that worked out. I got notice of a map that actually has green planets on it. Now, assuming I can get to it when it opens before another certain alliance gets to it, that's a completely different story. But I will do my best to do that, and it'll be a pretty good video, actually, because there's a lot of things you need to know. There are certain things that you should want to do to mitigate your costs of going to a new map as well, because you are starting essentially fresh. You have nothing going to a new map, therefore you have to pretty much do everything from scratch as if you were a brand new player on your home map. That's a huge expense. So what I'll do is I'll show you how to do it in secret to get on the map, so hopefully other players don't see you, and we'll go from there. The next video I'm going to put out is actually prior to that one. The next video I'm going to put out is what you can do, at least part of what you can do, to mitigate the costs of this game. I've been asked that a lot. I've been trying to write things down here and there. After you do this over time and so much, it kind of becomes muscle memory, and you don't really think about it when you do it. So I had to kind of make a list for myself so I can get them all down on paper and put them in a video for you. So anyhow, that about wraps this up here. If you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to see, please leave them down in the comments. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll keep putting these out here for you. Thank you, my friends, and take care.